Have you ever had one of those moments where time just seems to stand still? A car crash, a sudden fall, or maybe the moment you first met someone special. For a few seconds, everything slows down. Now, imagine that feeling but stretched out, not just for you, but for an entire city. This isn't science fiction. This is the incredible true story of the Carrington event, a day in 1859 when the world, as people knew it, momentarily stopped. It all started with a man named Richard Carrington. He was an amateur astronomer in a small town outside London, and on September 1st, 1859, he was doing what he did every day, observing the sun. He was sketching sunspots, those dark patches on the sun's surface, when suddenly he saw it. Two brilliant flashes of white light, brighter than the sun itself, erupted from one of the sunspot groups. They were so intense he later described them as blinding. He ran to find anyone, to witness this incredible event with him, but by the time he returned, the flashes were gone. The whole thing lasted less than 5 minutes. Carrington had just become the first person in history to witness a solar flare. What he didn't know was that he had just seen the opening act of a global drama. Just over 17 hours later, the second part of the event arrived. A massive wave of magnetized plasma, a coronal mass ejection, slammed into Earth's magnetic field. This is where things get really wild. Suddenly, all around the world, the sky exploded with light. The northern lights, the aurora borealis, were seen as far south as Cuba and Hawaii. People in the Rocky Mountains woke up in the middle of the night thinking it was dawn and started making breakfast. Newspapers reported that the light was so bright you could read a book by it at 1 in the morning. But it wasn't just a spectacular light show. This was the dawn of the electrical age, and the world had just built its first global nervous system, the telegraph network. When the solar storm hit, this network went haywire. Telegraph pylons threw sparks, shocking operators who tried to touch their equipment. Some telegraph paper spontaneously burst into flames. The system was completely overloaded. Telegraph communications across Europe and North America ground to a halt. Here's the most bizarre part. Some operators, out of sheer curiosity, disconnected their batteries, and the telegraphs kept working. The auroras themselves were generating enough electrical current in the wires to send messages. For a few hours, humanity was communicating using electricity generated directly by the sun. It was as if the sky itself had become a giant celestial battery. For everyone on the planet, from the astronomers to the telegraph operators to the ordinary people woken up by the ghostly light, it must have felt like the laws of nature had been temporarily suspended. Time, in a way, had frozen, as the familiar rhythm of day and night and the steady click-clack of the telegraph were replaced by an awe-inspiring and terrifying cosmic event. The Carrington event was the most powerful geomagnetic storm in recorded history. It was a wake-up call, a message from our own star that we are part of a much larger, more dynamic cosmos than we often realize. Now, you might be thinking, that was over 150 years ago. What does that have to do with me? Well, everything. Imagine the Carrington event happening today. It wouldn't just be telegraphs going down. We live in a world that runs on electricity and satellites. Our power grids, our GPS systems, the internet, banking, air travel, all of it is vulnerable. A solar storm of that magnitude today wouldn't just be an inconvenience, it could be a catastrophe. Experts predict it could cause continent-wide blackouts that might last for weeks, months, or even years. The damage could cost trillions of dollars. It would be like a global hurricane, but one that strikes everywhere at once with no warning. The world wouldn't end, but our modern way of life would be thrown back decades. We have to relearn how to live without the constant hum of electricity and the instant connection of the internet. It would be a moment where time for our civilization would once again seem to freeze. We'd be forced to stop, to look up from our screens, and to work together in ways we haven't had to in generations. Scientists at NASA and other space agencies are working around the clock, monitoring the sun, trying to understand solar flares better so we can predict them. Engineers are working on ways to make our power grids more resilient, but the sun is a star, and stars are unpredictable. The story of the Carrington event isn't meant to scare you. It's a reminder of our vulnerability, but also of our resilience. It's a reminder that we live on a tiny planet in a vast and powerful universe. It teaches us that sometimes the most profound changes come not from us, but from the sky above. It's a story about a moment when humanity got a glimpse of the true power of the cosmos, a day when for an entire city, and indeed the entire world, time itself seemed to freeze. So, the next time you look up at the sun with proper eye protection, of course remember Richard Carrington. Remember the day the sky caught fire, the telegraphs talked on their own, and the world got a preview of what happens when our star decides to flex its muscles. It's a humbling thought, isn't it? Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the incredible events that have shaped our world. Let me know in the comments what you think a modern Carrington event would be like. See you next time.